I guess you could say that I really chose the wrong time to get a nose job. Hello, my name is Diana, and this is my first video on my rhinoplasty journey. This is my first video in my series. I plan on documenting the entire rhinoplasty process from start to finish. So right now we're starting in the consultation phase, which is essentially me just submitting consultation requests to surgeons that I have researched in my area and paying them a lot of money to talk to them for half an hour. So let's get into this. I am getting a cosmetic nose job. So essentially what that means is that there's no actual physiological issue with my nose. I breathe perfectly fine, it functions, it does what it's supposed to do. However, I do not like how it looks. For example, my mom got a reconstructive rhinoplasty because she had a deviated septum, which is a very common reason why people get reconstructive surgery. But that is not what I'm seeking. I am seeking purely superficial surgery on my nose. I have always been pretty unhappy with my nose and been pretty insecure on my nose, but it's never held me back in any way. Like, I was able to do everything that I wanted to do and have ever wanted to do with my nose. I don't hate it in that regard. For me, it's just mainly on a day-to-day basis. I know that it would make me more confident if I was able to get some adjustments on it. So let's talk about Eurocentric beauty standards, because that's something that I do kind of struggle with. In terms of the Eurocentric, I don't necessarily believe that that is my biggest push, because I am mixed, I'm Eurasian. My nose is not like my Asian side of the family. I actually really love their noses. I think they're very cute. But my nose, this shape and this sizing is actually from my dad's side, the British side. I think it's my grandma's grandma, my great grandma, had a nose just like mine. So I got it from her. Gotta love genetics. And so because of that, I don't think that it's rooted in Eurocentrism and European beauty standards. I might be wrong with that. I do think there's plenty to unpack whenever someone is getting any sort of cosmetic procedure, whether it's like me, a nose job, breast implants, fillers, Botox, X, Y, and Z. I do think it's very important to acknowledge that we are doing it for superficial reasons. And sorry, if you could hear that snore, my baby dog Olive is sleeping beside me. I do think that women would not be getting cosmetic surgeries in making it the billion-dollar industry that it is today if society wasn't telling us that, hey, you're not good enough unless you get this done. I don't think we should just, plug our ears and la 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 when people are trying to say that, hey, this is rooted in keeping women insecure. I don't want to make it sound like I don't believe that women are autonomous in making decisions about their body, because I think that is inherently anti-feminist. But I do think that there needs to be a greater conversation about why we get these done, why we do it so much more than men statistically and financially. And I don't know, I don't want to be tone deaf, and I don't want to be ignorant, and I don't want to pretend that this is something that is not. That being said though, of course, I am a legally consenting adult. I have made this decision, and I guess I do want to say that, I have never once had someone bully me about my nose. I have never once had someone make fun of my nose, make a comment about my nose. I've been very lucky, as fucked up as that is to say, because not getting bullied shouldn't be considered lucky, but anyway. I've never had anyone say anything about my nose, ever. It's only just been me, and things that I've noticed and things that I've noticed about myself and things that I would like to change. So I guess maybe I should have prefaced this whole part in saying that I'm not doing this in response to harassment or bullying or anything like that. This has just been about me. Oh, I guess I already kind of explained what I'm hoping to get done. To summarize, obviously the hump, pretty easy though, that's pretty standard. But what's more difficult and more complex and will cost more money is the front appearance of the bridge and also the bulbous tip. So one of the most important things you could possibly do before choosing something as important as a plastic surgeon is doing extensive research. You want to make sure that this person is certified, you want to make sure that this person has years and years and years of experience. The starting point that I went to was ratemymd.com. It's a website that people rate their experiences with different types of doctors, and that includes plastic surgeons. I live in Vancouver, BC, Canada, by the way, and so I looked regionally in the Lower Mainland for the top-rated plastic surgeons, and that's where I started my research, finding the doctors that had the most experience and the best ratings in regards to rhinoplasty. And then once I narrowed down the surgeons that I thought were possible contenders, then what I do is I start looking at their bios, start looking at their before and after photos, start looking up reviews. That's where you can get the ball rolling, essentially. Going to other websites, ensure that they're certified, kind of just essentially do a deep dive into who the surgeon is and what you want to get done and their past results. Have I been out of focus this entire time? Oh, my research. Sorry, I had to just brought you so much closer because focusing is just a lot easier when you're this close. I'm just kind of a floating head. Anyway, so I'm going to butcher his name, so I'll put it up on the screen just so you can see. But it's pronounced Dr. Buenasisi? Buenasisi? I'm so sorry, I'm butchering that name. So he was the first one that I found right off the bat that had the best reviews in regards to rhinoplasty on RateMyMD. His reviews were honestly pretty glowing in regards to facial plastic surgery and rhinoplasty specifically, and I was interested in his work. And he's also someone that I've seen on social media and other networks, so he has a good marketing team. So he's the one that I reached out to first. So, the consultations. First off, I should say that both of the consultations that I booked charged $200 for consultations, which at first I thought was extremely steep, but then upon research I found out that that was industry standard. I don't really know what to expect, to be honest. I hope I feel confident and comfortable after them, and I hope also that I have one surgeon that really stands out, the one that I feel most trust and confidence in, putting quite literally my life in their hands. And I also should add that the consultation actually is not anything solidified. By you going to a consultation, it is not some sort of contractual obligation that you need to use them as your plastic surgeon. In fact, most people recommend that you visit at least 2 plastic surgeons before deciding on who you want to choose, just so that you have your options and you can see who's available and who's the best fit for you. I want to pick the person that has the skill set, the knowledge, and also who cares and who listens. That's going to be really important to me. Being heard is something that's very important, I think especially for a procedure like this. One of the last topics is pricing, because everyone wants to know about pricing because goddamn, shit's expensive. So I forgot to say that I'm going through the private sector here in Canada, you know, public healthcare, universal healthcare, you know, I love that. But to get something cosmetically done that does not impact my health, I have to go to private sector. The average nose job costs around 10 grand. That's average. The cost that I've been getting estimates from the office administrative assistants, from the plastic surgeons, they have ranged from 9 to I think it was 13,000. So there is quite a bit of a range. Okay, so when will this happen? Right now it's January 13th. This is when I'm filming my first video. One of the surgeons that I've talked to or spoken with said that I could get the surgery, that they're already booking for February, which is very intimidating to me because that's very soon and you know, your girl's gotta save somewhere. But I am guessing that I will probably have the surgery done sometime in March.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
I want this to be a realistic, real, in-depth conversation about rhinoplasty, before and after, in depth, being fully honest, fully transparent, and take you along for the ride. I hope you're excited for it, and because I know I am, and I'll keep you along the way and I'll keep you updated. Hello, I am recording this currently 3 days away from my scheduled nose job. In my last video that I recorded, what feels like forever ago, I had yet to see my doctors that I was supposed to have a consultation with. I had 3 consultations booked, but I ended up canceling the 3rd one. So, my experiences for my consultations. So I had 2 and they both went well. So, my first consultation, I almost kind of went into it feeling like it was a job interview in a weird way. Even though technically it's his job interview. He's interviewing for the job of the surgery. I don't know why, but I felt the same amount of pressure from me. I was pretty nervous. So I went into it feeling pretty prepared and I was ready to go. I had my consultation with, I'm gonna just call him Dr. B. I had an appointment with Dr. B at 8 West Clinic. I walk in and it's like in this beautiful building. It's all glass, it's all white, and like marble. All the women that work there are beautiful, like models, and they're all wearing like pencil skirts and like stilettos. So we walk in and I'm just like, holy shit, this is like beautiful, oh my god. And then, so, you know, you see this in your head and I'm like, oh my god, like shit, like this is gonna be like expensive, like this is bougie, like this is like entirely too nice, like, so I first meet Sarah. I think she's technically his assistant. I think that's what her job title is. And she takes my photos, the front, the side, the 3/4, and also like this really embarrassing angle of like your head all the way back, like into your nostril. That's cute. And then finally, I get to go see Dr. B. Dr. B. And actually, so before both these consultations, I emailed both asking them if they would feel comfortable with me filming the experience. But when I reached out to Sarah, she actually referred me to this lovely young lady named Harleen, and she's great. So she's like their marketing communications person there, and when I asked her if it'd be okay if I could film it, she was actually so on it, and she immediately was like, hey, we can film this for you, which I thought was fucking cool. And she was like, yeah, we'll film it, I'll edit this for you, and then I can send it back to you, like no problem. She loved the idea of, or they loved the idea of filming the experience, filming the consultation, filming like my perspective, and yeah, they were totally on board, which was a really good first impression. I was immediately kind of, you know, when someone is confident about you filming your experience, it like they know that their shit is good, you know, like they're like, yeah, no, like I know what I got is good, so film it. And we did. So I got to meet Harleen, she was really sweet, and then I got to meet Dr. B, and he was awesome, and so we filmed a consultation. And I guess this is the moment where I will put in the clip from the consultation that Harleen graciously edited for me. So here it is, my consultation with Dr. B. And my mom, she was there too.
We're going to talk about rhinoplasty.
Yeah.
Have you thought about doing this for a while?
Yes, it's something I've been wanting to do pretty much since
birth? I thought you were going to say that.
No, I had a cute little nose and then puberty hit.
Yeah. Do you have some ideas about specifically what you'd like to change?
Yes.
Okay.
So the obvious stuff is of course the side profile,
Yeah.
that's very standard.
Yeah.
For you, but also for me, something that I would like to
You take your time, I'll be
I've always said that my nose is kind of triangular instead of parallel. If that makes any sense.
So are you talking about the shape of this part of your nose here?
With all this,
Okay.
that's, yeah.
Yeah, so you know when we look at this view, which is what we call a base view, so in this view you'll notice that your nose kind of goes up like this, and then you have a sort of a flattish spot at the top, and that's pretty common. That can be made more narrow, and so a common request
Okay.
And the way that's done is the cartilages underneath the nose, they're there to hold your skin open so that you can breathe. But they can be narrowed a little bit by bending the cartilages inward. Sometimes we remove a little bit of the cartilage so it's not quite so stiff. There's a limit though, and the limit is that, first of all, if we narrow them so much that the internal dimension becomes too small, then you're going to have trouble with your breathing.
Yes.
The other thing is that when we do narrow them a reasonable amount, sometimes putting the skin back down onto the tip cartilages camouflages what we did. Much like, you know, wearing a big thick coat camouflages your figure. I would say you have thickish skin. Did you think that?
I thought that too, and because this is our second consultation. We went to one last week as well with another surgeon, and he said that I had thin skin, which was surprised me because
I've got thick skin.
because I thought from what I've read that I would fall under thick skin.
Yeah, certainly the skin on the tip of your nose is
Yeah.
thick. I mean, maybe on the bridge I can't see, but to me that's,
Yeah.
I would say you've got thick skin.
Yeah. Okay.
That's actually a good thing because
Yeah.
with thicker skin you tend to not to have get wrinkles. You'll always look young, so I think it's actually a good thing. But when we're making changes to the nose, particularly the tip, it does affect how narrow you can make the nose. There's pros and cons, and I think also you're born with the skin that you're born with, and there's nothing you can really do.
Yeah.
Why don't we do some imaging,
For sure.
and I'll try and show you what you would expect. Some of the things that we change with rhinoplasty on this view are related to the projection of the tip, how far away it comes from your cheek, how much it's tilted upwards, also how high the bridge is. If you'll notice here, let's just use this as an example, the angle that she's got here is about 90 degrees. It's more like 100 degrees now, and that's what you have now. So your tip is tilted up perfectly. There's no reason to lift that up more. That's a common problem. You notice that her angle is about 90 degrees. Yeah, you don't have that at all, which is nice. So to me, on your profile view, the only thing that I would really suggest modifying is really the bridge height.
Yeah.
The problem with trying to bring the tip in is that it makes the bridge look bigger, and it makes your nose tend to look wider on the front. So that's kind of not something that I think in you would like.
Yeah.
So let's see how this looks. So that point up here is the low point of your nose. We want to try and get the whole nose to be at least that low. Sometimes you can take it a little bit lower than that, but you have to be a bit careful not to overdo it. That's with your nose basically straight. So the lowest point of your nose, as I mentioned before, was about here. And there was an area in between that was a bit higher, so we took that down with the imaging. So you sort of go from there to there.
Yeah.
And I'll show you just stills back and forth, so you can kind of look back and forth and see the difference. I think what's nice about these views is that it allows you to kind of look at your whole face here, and look at your whole face there, and see what that does for your look, rather than sort of focusing too much on the nose and so on.
Yeah.
But I think that looks better.
Yeah, I love that. That's exactly what
Otherwise, I don't really see anything there that I would change.
No. Yeah. I wouldn't want to perhaps go too upturned or anything like that.
Yeah. No, I think that looks really good.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And then let's do it on your 3/4 view as well. Does one side seem to be worse than the other? Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that side. Yeah.
The reason that is because the nose bone doesn't actually come to a single apex. There's two apexes, one on each side. Usually one on one side is a little higher. So when you look from the opposite side, it looks bigger.
Yeah.
So this indicates that the bump on your nose is higher on your left.
Yes.
Because when we look from the right, we see more. Sometimes people will see bumps on their nose on this view and not on the profile because it's just wide but flat. It's moving your eye as well. Sorry about that.
Oh, no.
So that's the difference on that view. Front view, it's a little harder to simulate, but I'm going to try. On this view, a little harder to do, but I'll try. One thing, when we take the bridge down, you can just see these little edges. And I was mentioning to you before that edge is a little higher on your left than your right, and that's why when you look from this side, you see the bump a bit more. Those will be decreased a little bit. There's not much I can do with the imaging to show you that, because a lot of what we're seeing here is shadowing, so there's dark here and light here. I can't really move that around too much.
Yeah.
But your tip, what you'll notice with your tip is that these areas here will be brought in and made a little flatter. So it gives you a little bit more of a triangular shape rather than a boxy shape to your tip.
Bulbous.
Yeah, less bulbous.
Yeah, one insecurity that I have about my nose from the front view is that right above the bulbous tip is a lot of shadow in photos for some reason. Right here,
Oh yeah.
it's kind of two triangles of shadow.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Is there much to do for that, or?
I mean, I'm not sure you can predict
Yeah.
that you won't have shadow.
Yeah.
I think that, I know what you're saying, you're talking about the little shadows that
Yeah.
occur in there.
Yeah.
I suspect that those will change.
Yeah.
If you change the dimension of your tip. To what degree, it's hard to say.
It's hard to say beforehand.
I think that's about as narrow as you could maybe get.
I definitely wouldn't want to push it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that again, depending on how your skin reacts, you might not be able to get it that narrow just because you've got thicker skin. Maybe it would be more like that, and maybe that's a more realistic expectation. But regardless, you'll see a change.
Yeah.
It's just how much. Sometimes you don't know.
Yeah.
And you might not see that change right away.
Yeah.
Your tissues will be a bit swollen. There's going to be some scar tissue that's going to form as you heal from the surgery. And sometimes those scar tissues will thin and remodel over a period of a year or even more. And so you'll notice a difference in the shape of your tip over a period of a couple of years. The biggest change, of course, will be right away. You'll see it, but it continues to change after that. So you have to be a little bit patient.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear about how it's done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
In your case, I'd recommend an external approach, which would mean that I'd make a little incision in your skin
Yeah.
between your nostrils.
That's pretty much what I was universally
Yeah,
expecting.
yeah. There's no substitute for it. It's the most accurate way to reconstruct your tip cartilages. It's not just about reshaping things; it's also rebuilding them so that they are sturdy, so that they stay where we put them. So we make a tiny little incision here. The skin is lifted off of those cartilages. Your cartilages need to be made a little narrower. So often what I'll do is, depending on what I find, how stiff they are, but often I'll bend them inward by using stitches through and through that bend the cartilages inward. That way they stay nice and round and smooth. There's not cut edges that will poke through the skin. And then they need to be secured as well to underlying structures like your septum so that they don't sort of go down after the surgery. And that's where an external approach I think really helps. Because you can use stitches, you can re-secure the cartilages after we've taken them apart. Same thing on your bridge. Your bridge needs to be reduced by taking away bone and cartilage. Now you can imagine, because the nose is hollow, if we take that bone and cartilage out, there's going to be a space. So we don't want to leave that space because your skin will grow down into it. We need to take the nose bones and move them to close that space off. So when we do that with your nose bones, the nose bones are along here, that's easy to get those back together. These cartilages, however, they're kind of flimsy and soft. I prefer to bring those together with stitches. So I'm actually going to use stitches in there to rebuild the middle part of your nose so that it doesn't sort of fall away as you heal. Again, another reason to do this in an open approach, I can look right at that area and put stitches just like you do. Just a tiny little incision right there.
This is different.
When it's just healed.
It's gonna cut.
Yeah. No, this is the same. Is it the same incision?
No, this part.
Yeah,
It's
that's something I
bending it instead of cutting it.
That's something I was going to
Yeah, I wouldn't it depends what I find, but I don't generally recommend cutting it. I
Yeah.
think you're much better off to maintain the integrity of those cartilages by keeping them intact.
Because with the plastic surgeon we were speaking with before, he was talking about removing some some of the cartilage of the bulbous tip. And
You can. I don't think that's necessarily a poor technique. I think some people do it that way.
Yeah.
I find that I prefer to reshape it, but keep it intact.
Yeah.
That way it's still going to hold your skin up. To be honest, I think the scars are not an issue.
No, I'm
It's such a huge advantage to be able to get in there and actually see things that
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's important.
I'm not too concerned about that.
Yeah. So yeah, basically reduction of the hump. The cartilages need to be bent inward. Sometimes there's cartilage that is actually curling underneath that needs to be loosened up and laid on top again to allow for flattening. And so there's some dissection of cartilage in this area here to relieve some of the tension on it that's causing it to bend. So there's lots of little ways of making this sit flatter. I don't generally cut through the cartilages if I don't have to. I think it leads to sharp edges and things like that. But those are, I think that's fine to do it that way too. You have the option of being sedated, so you can have what's called conscious sedation, where you're given medications intravenously where you're relaxed. I'll freeze your nose with local anesthetic, but you're awake and comfortable and happy. Or you can be put to sleep completely with a general anesthetic. With IV sedation.
Really?
I would recommend that for sure. Probably 98% of our rhinoplasties we do with patients awake but groggy from the anesthetic.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. You don't have to, I mean, it's
Yeah.
really up to you.
Yeah.
The advantage for me as a surgeon is that you're not going to have a big tube in your mouth that's completely distorting your profile. So imagine you lying like this.
Yeah, I've seen photos.
Your nose doesn't look the same.
No.
Right? So I think in terms of making judgments about how your nose looks, for me it's much better if your mouth is closed, you're talking, you're moving. It gives me a better sense for how things look relative to your face. Also, the recovery is much simpler with this. You finish your surgery, an hour later you can just go home. You're not going to have a hangover, you're not going to feel groggy. So in the vast majority of cases, the sedation is more than enough. But if you're anxious about being aware, if you're anxious about sort of seeing stuff in the operating room, then you can certainly have a general anesthetic if you want. Absolutely.
Should be allowed to bring like earphones into it.
If you want to, you can. Oh, you're going to miss out on everything though.
I was
wanna hear.
I wasn't too big on this wild ride, but
I'm just wondering about the sounds, or she was like getting cracky.
I'm not too concerned. I'm not too squeamish for that kind of
I
thing.
think you probably hear like some tapping sounds here and there when I'm moving the nose bones. The rest of it you don't really. I don't use power tools or anything. So I wish.
And with that, because you don't have to hire an anesthesiologist, does that reduce costs?
Yes, so it's less expensive to do it with IV sedation because you can save the cost of the anesthesiologist. We still have a sedation nurse that looks after you, but unfortunately we don't have to pay her very much.
Okay.
I think the biggest advantage, though, to be honest, is that the recovery's fast.
Yeah.
You can go home, fairly quickly right after the surgery. Most patients have less bleeding when they do with conscious sedation than they do with general anesthetic, which for me is nice because I'm not, working around blood that makes it difficult for me to see. I just think the whole process is a bit smoother that way. But I do have, we get about maybe 10 people a year that just don't think they can do it, and so they have the conscious sedation, they have the general anesthetic. Think about that. I don't think that's something you have to decide today.
That's something I never even considered or didn't really think about, but
yeah, for me, it's the vast majority of my cases I do that way.
yeah. Okay.
All right, I'll put that down at least for now.
Yeah.
Surgery takes about an hour, maybe a little bit less. You're at the surgery center about an hour beforehand just to prepare for everything. You'll do your surgery, then about an hour later you can go home. You really need to kind of take it easy that day. You can have a cast in your nose. You can expect to have a little bit of bleeding from your nose, but I don't generally put packs in there, so it's a little more comfortable. The cast comes off after a week. Do you bruise easily?
Not generally, no.
You may not have much. Some people have some bruises in their cheeks.
Yeah.
Not everybody does. Your nose will be a bit swollen as expected. When the cast comes off, your nose is going to look better right off the bat. But sometimes there's still a bit of swelling that can make it look like you still have a bit of a bump, or that your nose is a little wider than it was before, and that goes away fairly quickly. You shouldn't wear glasses probably for 6 weeks.
That's what, 6 to 8 weeks is what I read, so.
Do you wear contacts?
I do have, I generally don't, but for this, it's no problem.
Wear contacts. In worst case scenario, you could always tape your glasses to your forehead. It looks great as well.
That's a good one.
So, in terms of the risks of surgery, sorry, I think you're my last consult of the day and I've been talking too much.
No worries.
There's medical risks and then there's cosmetic risks. So the medical risks are bleeding. You can get a lot of bleeding from the nose. It's possible. I think severe bleeding is maybe a chance of 1 in 500, something like that. Pretty uncommon. You would have to put packing in your nose. We might have to admit you to the hospital if that was the case. I've done that once in 20 years, so I think it's pretty uncommon, but it could happen. You could get an infection, so I put everybody on an antibiotic for a week. Do you have any allergies to medications?
Yes, I do. I have an allergy to antibiotics, Citromax, and codeine, which I know is a big one.
Okay. I'm going to just get your blood pressure.
For sure.
We talked about medical risks. Cosmetic risks are a little different.
Yes.
You know, there's no perfect nose. I don't have a perfect nose. None of my patients that I've operated on have perfect noses. But the idea is we want to try and make safe and, you know, reasonable cosmetic improvements to your nose, and I think you're going to achieve that. There's always something that doesn't go right. Maybe we put your tip cartilages together and one seems a little flatter than the other. We might take your bridge down on a certain view. Maybe you can still see a hint of a bump. I think you're going to have a nice improvement. I think that the improvements will far outweigh the imperfections, but that's something to think about. I would say that your case is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
You're not needing to do things that are complicated. They're also fairly predictable. So reduction of the hum is a pretty predictable thing.
Yep.
Your nose is pretty straight already, so we're not trying to straighten something that doesn't want to be straight.
Yeah.
So I think you're pretty low risk for significant cosmetic complications. But imperfection is one of those things that some people notice after
What's the
surgery.
common complication with tip?
I think you could overdo it and look funny.
Yeah.
You could overdo it and not be able to breathe well. So I'm pretty conservative about it. I just want to give you some improvement and not go crazy with it. Same thing with the bridge. I think if you take the bridge down too much, it can look a little bit fake.
And I definitely, yeah, I don't have. I remember I read your PDF document.
Okay.
And
You and my mom.
yeah, that's good. I'm glad. It was great.
I think you're gonna get the improvements that I've showed you on the imaging. I think you'll be pretty close to that. So I'll email those to you
Great.
and have a look at them. And
Thank you.
if you change your mind about the degree of how much we reduce the bridge, less, more, let me know. I don't really think there's anything else that I would suggest that you change, other than that little bit of refinement of your tip. I don't think you should bring your tip in, tilt it up, any of those things.
No. Yeah.
I don't think it's going to look good.
I agree.
Last thing, I just want to have a look on the inside of your nose.
Oh, fine. Okay.
Okay, just come forward. Yeah, that all looks really good. Yeah,
Is it a straight septum?
not really. I think you've got little curves to it. That's pretty typical though.
Yeah.
It's straight at the front, which is why your nose looks straight. In the back, it has a couple little S turns, but nothing that I would think you should change.
No.
Yeah, it's nice and solid. It's holding up your bridge nicely. There'd be no reason to try and modify that.
No. And it doesn't impact my breathing at all.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't. It's pretty good. In terms of post-operatively, they'll walk you through that too, but you're gonna take a week or so off. Most people after a week, the cast is off and they feel pretty good. They go back to fairly normal activities, with the exception of really heavy physical stuff. I would wait a couple weeks for that.
Is it my surgery was for deviated septum?
It'd be similar.
I guess that's what right now. Yeah.
And I guess one question would be, what's your revision policy if something was to happen?
I think if what you're expecting from the surgery is what we show you on the imaging, I think if you don't get very, very close to that, and you need to have something else done, like perhaps take the bridge down a little bit more, I'm happy to do that. I do ask you that you pay the cost of the surgery center. Now, if you come back and you say, "Oh, I love the way my nose looks, but I really want my tip to come in," which please tell me now if you want that.
No.
If it's something completely different, then I would charge you for that.
Okay.
And I think the rate of revision is variable. I think sometimes there are things that there's no way I can make them better with surgery. And how do you sometimes you might want to make someone's tip very, very narrow, but it's just not possible. And sometimes patients will come back and say, "Oh, I want a revision for that," and I just can't. There's nothing I can do about that. So most revisions to me are things that the initial surgery just wasn't successful at. Whether you developed some scar tissue, a bone shifted, or maybe my judgment was poor. Maybe I took the bridge down and thought, that looks about right. And then afterwards I think, oh, maybe you should have taken that down more. I would much rather be in a situation where you come back and say, I wish you'd taken a bit more, than say you took too much.
Yeah.
You know, so I tend to be pretty conservative. I found that that's worked well for me. But you know, if you feel that the improvement isn't close to what we do with the imaging, then I think we should certainly see about possible revision. You should definitely wait a year. Your nose is not ready to have more surgery until it's healed for at least a year.
That's all.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So that was my consultation with Dr. B. As you could tell, I was very comfortable. I felt good. I was genuinely gobsmacked because his price was $9,500 after tax, so tax included, which obviously was a good thing. So when he said $9,500 after tax, I was very pleasantly surprised, and I decided to go with him because right after my consultation I went into the other room and paid a down payment of $1,500. After this consultation I felt so comfortable that I did the down payment, boom, right there, locked and loaded, and it was on that, during that consultation, that they also gave me a date, which was March 18th. So I was pretty shocked, and because I am, you know, public healthcare, you love it. I love it when it changes the world, but the waiting time is generally a bit longer. You know, you're like, if you're waiting for a hip replacement, it takes a while, and so I'm used to that. I'm used to kind of the being added to a queue and waiting your turn. But with private, they're like, I don't give a fuck. This is for profit. We can get you in next week. Let's go. Like, they're like, let's get. But I was shocked by how fast they were able to get me in. But from what I've read now, that's pretty normal. They get you in, boom. So after that consultation, I felt so comfortable. I did my down payment, which was non-refundable, and I decided to cancel my third consultation. Unless it gets canceled, my next video will be surgery day, which is terrifying and really exciting. So hopefully this doesn't get like jump cut to Tuesday and I'm not all disappointed and sad because it got canceled. Like, that would suck a lot. Hello! So this is actually Wednesday, the day that I was supposed to get my nose job. And as you can probably guess, it was canceled. Kind of bummed, but it is what it is. The thing that happened was me going in for surgery. They wanted to make sure that I was okay, that I didn't have a possibility of having COVID-19. And then a couple of days before the surgery, I woke up with a sore throat and a runny nose. And although those seem like very minor symptoms, it could be an indicator of something dangerous. And I don't want to put any of the nurses at risk, the doctor, or any other patients that could possibly have been in the facility at the same time. I am fine today. Honestly, I think it's for the better that it was postponed, because I feel guilty that the medical world is so overwhelmed right now. There's shortages, they're understaffed, they're overworked. Even though I'm really bummed out and I don't know when this surgery is going to be booked now, I think at the end of the day it was the right decision to postpone it to make sure everyone stays safe. So yeah, for now this nose job is in a pause. Now I'm gonna go self-isolate for a while. I already have been, and I will talk to you hopefully soon. We shall see. Hello friends, it has been forever. The last time I updated you was that the original date, which was March 18th, was cancelled and postponed. And it was postponed to May 6th. As we came to know now, things only just got worse. Over April, things were not looking good. And by late April, it became obvious that May 6th wasn't really realistic. And so I got an email from 8 West Clinic letting me know that it was canceled and that there was no date in sight that they can say definitively. I hope that in the coming days we'll get a definitive date. I guess you could say that I really chose the wrong time to get a nose job. Hello everyone. So if my calculations are correct, you've probably seen like 3 separate videos of me continuously talking about that I was about to get my nose job and then never getting my nose job. The first one starting way back in like February or March. Sorry, I'm outside in my garden, so there is some traffic. You can hear some cars around, but so my first original nose job was booked way back in March. Today is August 9th. And my nose job is now booked for tomorrow, August 10th, which is a Monday. I'm filming this on a Sunday. So how many months is that? January, February, March, April, May, June, July. 5 months, almost 6 months later. That has been the reality with COVID. It kept getting rescheduled, kept getting pushed back. And now finally it's here, which is pretty exciting. But it doesn't really feel real yet. I don't really feel like it's, because it's been postponed so many times, I'm just kind of not getting my hopes up too much just in case something happens last minute and, you know, it falls through. But for now, yeah, tomorrow. Some fun things since that happened literally this week was they sent a fax to my pharmacist of my antibiotics and pain medication. Initially they prescribed me codeine, which I had already told them was an allergy of mine. I'm allergic to codeine. I found that out when I got my wisdom teeth taken out. Very fun. So this round they prescribed to me a medication, but the pharmacist said that it interacted with one of my currently taken meds. It's a negative interaction with the medication that I'm already taking. And after discussing it with the surgeon and with his assistant, I said that I didn't feel comfortable going off the medication of my own because of the negative side effects that could cause. So the decision we made is that now all I am taking after my surgery is extra strength Tylenol. Sorry, if you can hear those crinkling, my dog Olive is walking around on the leaves, the crunchy leaves around me. Hi! She's just exploring the yard. But so yeah, after the surgery I'm coming home, all I'm taking is over the counter. She just knocked my... If anything, that's the thing I'm most nervous about. But after discussing it with Sarah, she said that she thinks it'll be okay. Some patients decide to do it on their own because they don't want to go on heavy pain medications, or sometimes patients find that after the surgery they don't even need the pain medications, so all they take is extra Tylenol. So fingers crossed that that's okay, and that's the case for me. I have the next week off, so the surgery is happening on the Monday, and then I'm getting my cast off on the next Monday, so 1 week later. So I have the Monday to the Monday off. I'm starting again next Tuesday. Which is pretty nice. I do work from home. If I was working in person and working at a normal job, I would have to take 2 weeks, but because I am working from home and I'm just working on my computer, they figured that 1 week is totally fine, it'll suffice. So for tomorrow morning, my arrival time is 8:30 a.m. and my surgery time is at 9:30 a.m. Due to COVID, my boyfriend nor my mom can wait for me in the waiting room, which kind of sucks. I really wish I could be with them, but you know, it is what it is. I'm really happy that it's at 9:30 a.m. that we're getting in at 8:30 a.m. because, you know, want to get over and done with. And 2, because after midnight tonight, I cannot drink or eat anything at all. So if my surgery was later on in the afternoon, I would be, you know, going the full day since the night before with no food, no water, which I know myself, I get hangry. I get very, very, very hangry, and I would be a wreck. I would be awful. I wouldn't be in a happy state or an excited state. I would just be grumpy. So yeah, I'm very happy about that. I guess I might as well, sorry, some traffic around, but I guess I might as well take off my glasses now so we can get one final look at me with my nose pre-surgery, I guess. Here we are. I get nice and close for you. And then here I'll do side profile on both sides. Side profile on both sides. So yeah, I'm gonna film tomorrow. I know when I'm going in and the process and everything, I'll definitely be filming it all. And then right after, when I'm out, it's so crazy. It doesn't feel real yet, but it's a next adventure, a new journey. I've been waiting for this for so long. So yeah, thank you for taking along with me so far with this. I don't know how to describe it other than an adventure. So I'll see you soon. Bye!